Welcome to another show of Flip Your Switch. It's been a while. We've been locked down a long time, as if I was in solitary confinement and I'm free now. On today's show is a guy who's been in solitary confinement several times named Richard Mills. Richard Mills runs an organization called Kee6six.org, and it's an organization that mentors kids, and he does prison advocacy work. He's really busy. He also has a job. He works in the 183 union doing construction, and beyond all that, he seems to have time to give to kids and to help people in his community. That's what this show's about tonight. Hope you like it. Hey, Richard, welcome to Flip Your Switch Studio. It's a pleasure to have you. I'm going to give you a COVID-19 shake there, pal. And off we start. So what it is I bumped into you over a BIFA initiative. Chris Harris, a professor, a black professor, introduced me to you at a function that BIFA was involved in. And now you've taken up that flag. We'll talk about that in a second. But what I'd like you to talk about is you had a childhood just like every one of our childhoods. Something happened to you, either in your childhood or in your early teens, that sent you down the wrong path and you end up in prison. Talk about your childhood for a second, and how did you get into that spot that ended you in that trouble that you got into as a kid?
Well, thanks for having me here. I appreciate it. As for my childhood, I had a really good childhood. Mother and father worked, finished school and so forth. I kind of got into becoming a young adult, starting to had friends and just trying to fit in, trying to find your way. At first, I think I first got jammed up on a charge of assault. And then
Assault police, assault stranger, assault a friend?
it was assault stranger.
Yeah. So you got in an argument with someone,
Yeah.
you lost it, you had a fight. Typical, could happen to anybody. Was it magnified because you were black and the system treated you differently, or was it just a normal arrest?
It was you know what, man? I really don't even know how to categorize that right now because, like, for me, I was a younger cat,
Yeah.
and I just looking at what's going on. Although there's a lot of things that happen that I felt that it shouldn't happen that way.
Yeah.
But I kind of went through it and I pleaded guilty. There was another person was involved, and at the time, I got an ass whooping from the police because they wouldn't give up the name of the other person. They had it like, everybody goes by AK.
And from your experience, that ass whipping from the police, because I got a lot of ass whippings, hug out windows, guns pointed at me, guns put it in my mouth, all that stuff. Is that a normal in the world you come from?
No, no, I had the telephone book treatment, the yellow page. That's what they call it.
Yeah,
back
put it,
then.
yeah.
But I went in, and when I went in, I was a soft dude. I never knew nothing about, being in the bin.
Yeah.
I got schooled.
So your assault charge resulted in federal penitentiary time?
No,
then?
provincial.
Okay, so you're in a provincial thing. I just want to make allude to something. You mentioned a phone book treatment. Most people don't know what that is. I know what it is. The Toronto cops, we have a big phone book in Toronto, put the phone book in a pillowcase. Generally, they put another pillowcase over your head so you can't see, and they sneak up behind you and whip you in the head with that telephone book. It's like getting hit by Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
There, and what they're trying to do is elicit information from you by torturing you.
Right.
Okay, so you went through that. Now you're in a provincial institution, and is this your life? Is what you see in the jail, is that your future? Because most black guys in your position, their first time in, that's just the beginning, man, of a long road of angst.
Yeah, well, I never even looked at it that way. I figured I'd just, get through the situation and just move on with life, right? It's, I kind of learned. I went in and older cats that was there, they kind of schooled me. I was like a soft cat, so I got schooled about the ethics, being inside. Back then,
Soft, you mean you didn't have a tough street demeanor, right?
right?
Yeah. So people would have looked at you as a kind of a softie, and they're going to want to step on your toes to see what you're about.
Right.
Yeah.
I was an suburban, dude. And then I went in and I remember clearly it was the Toronto West Detention Center. And I got on the range I even remember it's one A left,
Okay.
and there's a bunch of guys who was there. And well, when I went in, a couple people knew of me just from being around.
Yeah, that's a big help because it's not like you're in a strange world now. At least there's someone that I could say the guy's a good guy or the guy's a bad guy.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was good, Just like, hey, what are you doing here, man? Like, you're the last person I expect to see here.
Were they surprised? You said last
Yeah.
person. They were surprised. When I hit the joint, no one was surprised.
Yeah,
That's
they
really
were
bad kid.
surprised.
So yeah.
So I went in and I kind of got learned about how the code of ethics, right?
The prison code.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was there with these individuals, and they started showing me things, and they started, hey, you got to toughen up.
Yep.
So it was like, so we got locked up. I remembered. So kind of funny you brought that up because so we were locked up for lunch, and we came out after lunch. So every day we go in the bathroom, and there used to be a sparring thing.
Yeah, a little bit of fisticuffs in the
Right.
back. Yeah.
Right. And then I learned how to box.
Yep.
And this was day in and day out, right? A couple of days I had a few fat lips, and
Yeah.
kind of, hey, it was
So
part
to
of
put that in perspective, we doing that boxing then, because I'm a boxing coach, we would tie towels on our hands or make sheets out of gloves
right,
in order, so that it's a little bit fair. We're not just bare knuckle fighting.
right.
There's a little bit of rules in the back there, right?
Yeah, so it was. And then also the other thing, there was the shower slippers.
Yep.
The guys would use, so the guys would hold the shower
That's right,
slippers
for
up,
pads,
for pads and stuff like that. And then that's how it is. So I went through that, and then went through my drill, and I was able to get out.
So would you consider that training like training in the Marines, toughening you up?
Yeah,
like Marine
it did.
training.
Yeah.
So now you come out of prison, Marine trained, a little spun because you were in prison. Now what happens to you?
So I came home, and then my family kind of like felt I was a little bit different. I'm like, I'm all right.
You're tougher now.
Right. I was more aggressive.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And I just started, I think from that experience alone, that kind of molded me.
Okay, did prison help you? Or because what I'm hearing you is that prison actually hurt you.
It did hurt me, but in a sense, it did help me because it gave me a street mentality, like something I didn't know.
Yep.
So it helped me in a sense because I was always about business and so forth. So it kind of gave me another way of how to handle things.
That's right. You look like a bookworm. And coming in, we would have said that. This guy's headed for the library. He's probably going to end up with a library job, right? That's what we'd have said seeing you.
Right.
But then after you learn how to fight, you walk different, you talk a little different. And then we don't say that. Now we don't know what to say about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got to make your bones, in other words. Okay, so now you're out in the street. You're focused on surviving now, right?
Yeah.
It's your first time out. You're twisted a little by your experiences in prison. You're a bit of a stranger to your family because it's like coming out of the Marines. You're coming out of the Army. Now you got to fit in, and this is the thing I want you to nail down because you talk to kids. You're a youth counselor and you do big work in the community, and you could tell them what it's like to that adjustment period either knocks you out of the ballpark, and you head for crime the rest of your life, or something else happens. What happened for you?
So I never headed for crime. I came out and I just had to get myself adjusted, and fit back in the community. And so my family still didn't feel that I was the person who all along, for 20-something years. And it so happens that looking back at it now, I ended up getting another assault charge. And this time I ended up going in, and I ended up into assaulting a CO.
A CO is a correctional officer.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was back then. They used to get our meals in a cart every Sunday morning. So I'll never forget. It was bacon and eggs, and he used the N-word. Hurry up, UN, And I just took the tray out, and it was Sunday breakfast, tomato juice, bacon and eggs on the tray, and I just took the tray and just gave it to him. And I back then, I was working out. I had a little bit of size,
And you had boxing experience behind
right.
you. And you had experience of doing time before. So you're not going to take any shit from anybody.
Exactly. So I mean, so and then on top of it, I was always taught that listen, you do something like that to a CO, you're gonna get an ass whooping. So you're gonna make it good. So I was able to. I got him down, and they started beating on me, but I had him, and I started biting him.
Okay, so you were young, you were bolder then. Do you regret that? Could you have handled that a different way now, or would you have handled it a different way now?
I would. I
Or
would have
would an
handled
ass
it.
kicking be in order still?
I wouldn't. I would have handled it in a paper where
You'd have used the law and litigation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
definitely would.
Because
But
I want to get the message across, because I've done that myself. And I did a lot of hold time, and you get your ass kicked and
Yeah.
all that. Then I learned as a law clerk and a grievance clerk that you could hit them harder with the law.
right.
Yeah.
And that's what I've learned now. So that experience there now, I think that really, really was the experience that really changed me dramatically because I did segregation time. So back then they had a thing called bean cake. So for
I'm laughing for a reason, brother. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, so when I did that, I was put in segregation for 30 days, and then I was on a bean cake diet for 10. And then when my 30 days was up, I was actually did 40 days in seg, and then they shipped me out to a place called Millbrook. Now, Millbrook was a provincial institution that was built like a federal institution with gun towers and everything else in Peterborough, Ontario. And you had 19-hour lockup. So when I got to Millbrook, the funny thing about it now, I was getting shipped out of the West. And it was just me and one other black guy. But we never went straight to Millbrook. We went to, I think it was like 3 different institutions.
Yeah, little ghost chain.
Right, that's what they called it back then, the ghost chain, right? Just dropped off for a month or whatever, right? So finally we got there, and then they found out that there was no blacks in population. There was only about 5 blacks.
Let me stop you, because I've got 50 years experience and lots of relatives been there. Millbrook, one of the most racist institutions in Ontario. And the reason it was one of the most racist institutions in Ontario, because it was in the heart of KKK territory. That area of Ontario was saturated with KKK individuals. And Millbrook always had the reputation that if you were black and went there, you had to be tough to survive, because they always tried to put the black guys in PC, because once you go to PC, you never can come out in the eyes of the prison population.
Right.
So you went through that. So explain that, because it's a tough thing to do. And I'm going to say this to you. 90% of the guys that I know didn't make it, ended up in PC.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I got there, and I was with another a guy. He was a real Jamaican gangster dude. And he was on a gun charge, and just the 2 of us. We went to Owen Sound, and then from Owen Sound we went there. So we got there, and then he's saying like, listen, man, we're going downstairs in population. I'm like, all right, cool. So I went down. We had a worker at the time, and you went and saw your worker, and they asked you, said, well, you know about Millbrook? And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go downstairs. So
He's a reception guy.
Right.
Yeah, he's teaching you the ropes of how to fit into that institution. Right, yeah.
So I went downstairs, and I got on the range, and the first thing I got on the range with my cart and all my stuff in there, no end on the range. I'm like,
Oh, someone yelled out, we can say it, because I'm going to say it to you, because it happened to me enough times. We don't want any niggers on the range.
Right.
Get them off the range, copper, or we'll kill them.
Right.
Now, what do you do when that happens?
So I just went on and empty out my cart, went in my cell, doors shut, and then I hear a dude say, hey, where you come from? I told him the West. He said, anyone come with you? I said, yeah, John Doe. So he says, all right, cool. We get out at 6 o'clock. And then he told me what to do and stuff like that. So I did that and came out and went to yard. And there's a couple other brothers down there, which was good.
So to put it in perspective, we're talking a few years ago in the Ontario prison system, and we're talking Millbrook, which is a maximum security provincial institution. Mm-hmm. They don't have a lot of brothers there, man.
No.
There's usually 1, 2, 3 a range, 5 tops.
There was 1 range, and there was altogether there was 6 of us, 6 brothers in population.
That's it. So and there's also brothers I know that won't go to the range with 6 brothers. They'd rather go to range with the white guys, because they don't want the angst of being in a group.
Right.
And they want to be alone.
Well,
Those are tough guys
the
too.
range I was on, there's one brother that was on the range I was on.
Yeah.
So, and then there was other brothers on the other ranges, right?
So now you're in a racist institution. But not everybody's racist. That's the other thing. Not all the white boys are racist. So there's just a few handful of them that like to start trouble.
Yeah,
and you have to face that music as a brother. When we were growing up here, we had to do it the same way here. Prison's no different. So we had to do it in prison, and you did it.
Yeah.
So a lot of kudos for you for not saying,
Thanks, man.
I'm afraid, officer, I want to go to PC and then check in. So
I ended up down in population. I was there, and I ended up in a situation with a young cat.
you say a fight now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people don't know what you're talking about. A situation could be anything. You had to fight over a color thing.
Right.
Someone called you a name, or they called you up, or they said you couldn't have something.
Right. His comment was, when my daddy was here, no, and in population.
Well, I would have said that different. I'd have put him in check, because I'd have tuned his daddy up too.
So, so then I ended up in segregation again. Yep. And then I did my time in Seg, and I came out of Seg there. And there they had a different segregation from what I was at in the West. Yeah. So it was what they call a Chinese cell. Yeah. So there was no bed in the cell. Yeah. And there's a hole in the floor. Yeah.
Sucks every 3 minutes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that was how it was.
So that's a real cell. In the maximum security prisons, federal prisons, they have those too. They call them dry cells also.
Okay.
For to catch guys with dope, so the toilet doesn't flush. There's nothing you could do. So that kind of stuff. So that's hard solitary confinement time. And you had to do hard solitary confinement time because you're fighting for your civil rights. Yeah. That's it, man.
Yeah, that's what it was.
So what did that do to you? Because you're in the hole, it screws you up anyways. You get bitter in there.
Yeah, I was just, I started reading. The only thing I could have, I was having the Bible, and I started reading the Bible. Then I was able to, the windows were all blocks. So I was able to tell the sun what time of day it is.
Okay, let me stop you for a second, just because the audience don't know. The reason you have a Bible, because it's the only book they allow you to have when you're in solitary confinement by the laws of our country. If you're a Muslim, you could have the Quran. If you're a Buddhist, you could have some Buddhist texts. But if you're a Christian, you're going to read the Bible. It's the only thing they're going to give you to read anyways. Your solitary confinement, you're in the hole of the holes. That's what the dry cell is called. Right. And you're becoming bitter because of I'm in the hole because some guy called me a name, and I'm not in the hole because I'm a bad guy.
Yeah.
That's a life changer, man. So
and it was. But I was saying, in my mind, I kind of had a mentality, because when I came in first, a brother was on a lifer, and he said to me, he says, I want you to understand something. I want you to understand that there's only two people that walks out, two ways to walk out these doors. It's either you walk out on your own, or you walk out in a body bag, right? And it's up to you, right? So I kind of had that kind of embedded in my mind program.
Okay, most people don't get it. It's up to you. Why is it up to you? Why is your life up to you?
Well, it's in control, because then you are the one to decide if you're going to give up, or if you're going to stand up for what you believe in and fight for it, right?
But you could die fighting. That's
you could die for fighting too. Right?
So at least you're a man,
right? And
you go down swinging, and that's what he meant, right?
Yeah. So I kind of was programmed that way, that I'm going to stand up for what I believe in, and fight to it. It's like, don't stand up and just give up and go out like a punk.
Okay, brother, your troubles aren't over, because you survive Millbrook. You deal with racism there. You're in solitary confinement for a while. But you hit the street again. Now what happens to you?
And I didn't even know, but I just try to carry on with life, just pick up from where I left off.
But you ended up in the pen.
Yeah.
So we have another story here. The story continues. The saga to Richard Mills continues. Yeah. So what happened, man?
I was doing well, business-wise and stuff, and ended up with an assault again. And I found out later on that I actually suffered from PTSD, and things triggered me.
From your first experience in prison. Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah. Okay, Richard, your prison experience led you to suffer PTSD when you're, is that the correct pronunciation? PTSD? Yeah. And then you're out of Millbrook, real tough joint. But it's provincial. Federal joint's twice as tough, and you end up in the federal joint. So what happened? How did you get there? You mentioned it was an assault. Just let's roll from there. You're back in the joint.
So I picked up an assault and I'm back in, and I just at a point where I just seen everything I didn't agree with. Just the way the system is. I've always been a person who I had a belief that if something isn't right, who says like these people are always telling you that this is what we expect from you? Well, who are you to tell me that that's right?
You're talking about your classification officers
Right.
and attempting to correct you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm in, and I ended up going to federal and a 2-year sentence. But they also I put into because I had more assault. They came up with a new thing where they use it's called an LTO, long-term supervision. So they given me a sentence of that too.
So they added on because you were a repeat offender.
Mm-hmm.
They added on to your sentence a probationary attachment to last longer than the original sentence
Right.
that you were on, so that they can keep an eye on you a little longer and try to moderate your behavior. Here's a point I'm going to make. You just alluded to it. They wanted to correct you. They wanted you to do what? Be white or be what? What did they want you to do?
They had their own agenda within the system of how they want you to be, and I just didn't fit in that mold.
They had no experiences in you.
Right.
Yeah. So explain that, because it's a big mental hurdle.
So it's for me personally, it was a big challenge. I got to a point where, at one point, I just felt like just throwing in the towel and giving up. But then I just had that frame of mind, like if I give up, like how am I really going to achieve anything, right? I'm going to really give in to them. So I kept on asking, like every time I've got documents, well, why? Who says this is right? So at the end of the day, I was successfully to have a legal team behind me, and we got about 3 or 4 lawyers, and they all worked together. And one of my lawyer really, really, really stood out. He made a big. He molded me. He took a lot of time to. I asked questions, and he would spend hours with me. So in my whole bit, on a monthly basis, there's 30 days roughly in a month, and I said he would actually speak to me about 25 days of that 30.
So is this your beginning of prison mentoring and prison counseling?
Yeah.
So explain that, because now you've entered a different world. I've done the same thing during my time, and I know what you're getting at. So by helping others, it took all that stress off yourself of thinking your own beef.
Right,
Yeah.
because I started seeing a lot of young cats kept on saying to me, I'd be speaking to them. I said, well, why would you get yourself jammed up like this, man? I mean, you're a good ball player or so forth. And they're like, it's a long story, man. I was like, just strapped for some money. And I'm like, well, you could do this and you could do that. And they always say to me, like, no one ever showed me this. No one never talked to me like the way you're talking to me. So I'm like, really? I was like, yeah. So I said, well, listen, when you get out, this is what you could do. So I kind of like just started mentoring a lot of these young individuals that I came
So without
across.
a degree in psychology, you became a psychologist,
Yeah.
mentoring prisoners and effective at it. And you're still doing it. So let's go from there and roll up to the stuff that you're doing now, because I want to talk about the stuff you're doing now and pull all that out.
So
it's in your heart to do this, is what I'm saying.
right.
So go
So
ahead.
So from there, I started meeting a lot of individual young people, and talking with them and stuff, I said, if I was doing that there and they're getting so much benefits, I want to do this on the outside. So just before I was released, I picked up the phone one day and I called an accountant, and I had the name Kee6six. And the reason why, because everyone knows that's been the system, everybody else says
Explain
Kee6six.
that.
So Kee6six is a term that's used within the system. and it means you're the sixth man, you're lookout. So if you're doing something, keep six. You're looking out for the guards when they're coming.
Yeah, six up, man.
You're six up,
Yeah.
right? So with that said, I just like the name Keep6 because I felt I wanted to have a way of connection with these individuals. So I wanted a name that if they hear the name, they could connect with it. So I picked the name Keep6. So I had it put together, and I walked out and I started Keep6.
So yeah, I've read a lot about this organization. I've heard you and I've saw you on TV. I've seen you do stuff. It's a really good organization. And the thing is the name rings for all of us. Soon as I heard six, I knew it was something to do with prison because of my experiences there. You're really helping a lot of people. Fragment that. You're into a lot of stuff. Start picking apart the stuff you're into.
So originally I was just into mentoring. And I wanted to speak about what goes on behind the walls of the justice system because there's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of overrepresentation, there's a lot of human rights violations, and a lot of people in our community don't even realize that these things are taking place. So I started out just wanting to speak about what I experienced, what I felt that people could do to make it better for their loved ones who was going through situations, and how they could navigate through the justice system. So I started doing that, and with that said, it branched off to other things. And I started getting support from the community. People started reaching out, and what you're doing is really, really powerful, and I'd like to support you. And it grew to the point where I started looking at the situation a lot of young people are in. They're just individuals, say to speak. And one of the things was financial. Financial was a big thing for crime. So I came out and I was working in the construction industry with the union. And I realized the wages was very good, and individuals can make good wages starting out at about $40,000-$50,000 a year. So I reached out to the union and about training.
You're talking about the 183 union.
Yeah,
and they do have a good program now with dealing with prisoners.
Right.
Okay, let me tell you something. My brother came out of jail, suffered a parole violation, and the heads of that union got in a car, drove to Kingston to go on his parole hearing so he would be free to work in their company, and he just retired a few months ago.
Yeah.
So, and that's what you're up against. So explain this union thing and how you're going to help people transition and transform their lives through it.
So I contacted them and I explained I had an organization, I wanted some support, and they spoke and were able to get support. So I was able, they said, because they cover such a large range of sectors, they said, well, you could pick 10 sectors. So I picked 10 sectors that I feel people would be interested in getting into. And we're able to get them into the training, and from there they could go over to get jobs and become a union member and so forth, and make good wages and be a positive role model into the community, right? Contribute wise.
So you're really helping people flip their switch, man. Yeah. So talk about the farm for a second.
So the farm was another initiative that I wanted to do, was about COVID-19, healthy eating, and so forth. So I joined in a partnership with Black Farmers Collective out of Downsview Park. And what they do, they have greenhouses and they farm and feed the community. And a lot of guys coming out don't have money, need food, but also a lot of guys coming out want to eat healthy too, because they've been inside, they've been working out and so forth. So what I've done with them was that I wanted to also give guys the opportunity to be able to contribute back to the community. So if they wanted to volunteer, be able to volunteer to help at the farm and to help with the vegetables and growing.
Are you talking about guys coming out of prison or guys that have been out for a while?
Guys coming out of prison, and also guys who
How much help is Correction Service of Canada given for this project? Because it seems like a really good project.
We haven't had any funding or anything like that from Correctional Canada. We just had a putting together something to present to them regarding offenders who were who are out in a halfway house and would like to volunteer.
Yeah, I did an interview with Glenn Flett, who runs Link Lifers in the Community out west, and
Right.
that's exactly what he has. And not only is it a good program, to me, one of the best programs in Canada, but the commissioner of prisons, two of them, have flown out to that farm to look at his farm. He gets a lot of help. So I could surmise that that help should be coming your way too,
Yeah.
unless
It's just a matter of time.
so you're a patient man. So the farm's working. You're helping guys come out of jail and transform their lives by giving them access to healthy, clean food, but you're also giving them a work ethic also
Yes.
to go there and help the community, right?
Yeah. And hopefully, I mean, what a lot of guys coming out and they're dealing with issues and trying to fit in, as you know, we're all
Change their
know.
lives, yeah.
And this is an opportunity where we can, you know, they have that chance to contribute back to the community, but also um, being able to even learn something about, you know, farming and where food comes from and healthy eating and stuff like that too, right?
So I saw you I see you all over the place. You're really active, which is a good thing. And you're a working man. You go to work, you just finished work now. So you're a working man. You're really active in the stuff you do and you help a lot of people. What are the other things? I've seen you at other events. You go to, I've seen you at demonstrations.
Yeah. So a lot of the things I'm involved at the present time is about my main thing is empowering my community. I want them to be at their best and whatever I'm able to do. So I try to deal with entrepreneurship, getting young people into entrepreneurship, stuff like what we call e-commerce. I'm also involved in just starting up BIFA, as you mentioned it back.
Okay, we'll talk about BIFA, but this stuff you're doing now, this empowerment of our youth to redirect them away from crime into more pro-social activity is something OGs around North America are doing now. You're an OG, you have all this experience in the system that you're utilizing. And I think, and I don't know if you agree with this, that the government should wake up now before it's too late and helping guys like you change the perception of the kids have, because it is my belief that most kids, they think, and you've probably heard it, I've said it myself, I ain't going to live until I'm 25. Yeah. I'm not going to live until I'm 30. So I'm just going to gang bang my way until I get blown away. But you're offering alternative options and alternative methods of transitioning through life. Yeah. Where's the help? Let's talk about this help that you need.
The help is there, and I'm sure there's a lot of big organization that gets the help. I don't know, but I've been doing everything myself. I just can't sit around and wait to be a part of the monopoly.
Yeah, you're a true powerhouse in the community, man. That's why you're here. I want you on the show because you're going to change lives. People are going to listen to this. You're an ex-con, going to work every day, and yet you give every ounce of your time and money to help other people and other people's kids. You need help from the government. Let's go into BIFA now. I started BIFA 50 years ago to offset racial tension in the Canadian prison system. You mentioned the same angst that you went through in Millbrook. I went through when I hit the federal prison system, and I didn't want to take it, just like you. So we set up this entity called BIFA to do that, Black Inmates Friends Association at the time. And we rolled 50 years, and it was a good program. It helped brothers. We had a halfway house for a minute. That fell through in 1979. I think that's where we should go now. Plus your food farm initiative, that's a good place to go. But let's talk about BIFA. You registered BIFA as a company.
That's right,
so
nonprofit organization.
Hopefully, I'm almost daily praying for your success. BIFA's 50 years old, and hopefully for another 20 years, I see your face pushing that entity. Another 20 years going at it. So let's explain what you want to do with BIFA.
I would like to actually open a halfway house that caters to our community and the Black inmates and so forth.
That happened in 1979. Descent. It was called the Josiah Henson House. Their failure in the system, and I'll admit it now, corrections failed in 1979 because they chose the wrong group of brothers to go there. Me. I was the committee chairman. I was the first guy at that house, and I pulled in my cousins. And we were all criminals still. We hadn't transitioned out of our criminality. And I wrote that in my book. We had guns in the halfway house, man, hidden in the walls because we were still busy. And that was a big mistake. Now, the halfway house shut down because a guy absconded with the money
Right.
and took off and gave it to a communist party of another country.
Right.
And the government has a real sour taste in their mouth, the federal government, for giving another black group a black halfway house, although we both know how really needed that is. It didn't work for me, primarily because I didn't allow it. So let's look at this picture. There's a picture I'm going to upload right now. And the picture shows my father in Millhaven prison with my mother, my woman, the mother of my 3 kids, my sister-in-law, my co-accused present, past, and some in that picture are my co-accused in the future. That halfway house I think about all the time now because it was a turning point in my life. I could either go left or I can go right, and I chose to go wrong. And I went wrong in a big way. We started shooting out with the police. We're robbing banks. I robbed more banks than anywhere else in North America, any single city in North America. And that crew came out of that halfway house, and I put that in my book. The vision you have for a halfway house, how can you take that vision and change someone like me and the crew that I had? What is your vision for that halfway house? What can it do?
I think one of the most things that I focus towards would be having programs. Because you have to stop and look at one thing when it comes to reintegration, as they put it. It's a one program fits the whole.
There's no programs for me, and they said that.
Right. Yeah. And then there's all different things like you have to look like even there's a thing that what they call it now, SDG. Guys who are SDG. There's no program for an SDG.
What does SDG mean?
Right. I actually don't even, it's gang related. I don't know the
So what they do is they
acronym.
threw a gang ticket on you so that they could punish you more harshly.
Right.
In order to correct your harsher behavior is what it is.
Right, that's all. So, I mean, so the way I vision a halfway house would be something that would be having programs to cater to African-centric individuals, from their food to programs, spiritually and so forth, right? And also a lot of history, because I find that a lot of individuals don't even realize the demographic of.
So that's where OGs like you come in.
Right.
To talk about your experiences and guys like me, my experiences, right? That'd
Definitely.
be part of a program, would it not? Yeah.
Definitely. And just to give them that positive things. When you have an individual that gone through hardship or in the system, and they can look at their fellow individuals who's gone through the same challenges that they have, and being able to stay focused and build something that, is a positive in the community.
Well, look at you. One day you're going to be a union manager at the 183. There's no doubt in that. You're not going to be slugging metal and swinging a sledgehammer. You're going to be doing the stuff you learned in jail, how to mediate.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So I am hoping that once I'm able to organize stuff and get things going, it would be a very, very positive and uplifting thing for individuals to look forward to in the community.
Great. You know what your Biffa halfway house does in my mind? It gives a light, a beacon for every person of color in Canada that can't seem to get out and not fit in. So I transferred out to BC to go to that farm project of Glenn Fletz because I knew it would help me get out. And Glenn would give me the mentoring, counseling that I needed that you're offering also. Glenn's an old bank robber also, so that I would pay attention to an old colleague sort of. So I would listen to him. And what I see is the entire Canadian prison system from a federal level toning down its racial epithets, toning down its negativity when it comes to dealing with people of color, black prisoners specifically, and giving individuals an out. I'm going to get to the black halfway house. I'm going to get to the Biffa halfway house. If no matter what I do, for the sake of my wife, for the sake of my kids, for the sake of my family, and all that internal political garbage that you sometimes go through in prison, you could turn your back on it because you could say to someone, "Little brother, I understand what you're going through. I don't want to go out in the yard and fight. I don't want to smash the place up. I don't want to riot. I want to get into this Biffa program, and I've been working on it for 2 years now."
Right.
To get in the position to get on it. That's what the biggest change I see. It will change the entire Canadian prison system almost overnight, as it did when they open up native halfway houses.
Yes,
That's where I'm
definitely.
going.
I think what we have to look at through another lens is the fact that if you're able to give a body of people something in the sense that they are able to relate to when it comes to their culture and so forth, it makes a big difference.
It makes the huge difference. It makes a
Right.
difference of life and death
Right.
for some guys trapped in that system, especially if you're in the hole and the BIFA chairman comes and knocks on your door. Doo, doo, doo. Hey, brother, how you doing? You need anything?
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
Yeah.
And that's what you're offering.
Definitely. But it's not just on the inside, but also on the outside.
Okay,
The
so you have the
support.
farm, you have BIFA, you do lots of counseling. I see you on the street protesting when protesting needs to be done, Black Lives Matter stuff. Is there anything else you want to say in that arena of Black Lives Matter? Because you're part of that also.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of is ironic because for the last, what is it, say 20 years, the same things I've been protesting and fighting against, it's the same thing that's coming to light right now. And it's good in a sense, and I'm just hoping that once these marches stop, the community continue to bring these things to light and stand up still.
What I see is that this Black Lives Matter movement worldwide now, it's unifying these entities in the community that weren't necessarily working together before. They are now forced to work together.
Yeah.
BIFA will be part of a greater collective of other people's things. It will just grow. There will be other concepts similar that you can attach to. BIFA will be on its own. It will be like a castle surrounded by other castles.
Yeah.
That's strength in numbers.
And that's very important because for me it's about building. And I mean, I've come a long, long way. I wasn't the perfect person, and I'm still not.
Man,
but,
you flipped your switch in a big way. People talking about you across the city, man.
thanks. And it's tremendously, like, a lot of times I just sit back and I look, and I'm kind of like in a deja vu, like how I mean, I was able to achieve, and then I just realized that I've been just so focused. Sometimes I just realize
The black community needs leaders. They need leaders with a lived experience. They need leaders that know what solitary confinement is like so they can, when they're going up against civil rights issues, they know what they're talking about. You've become that leader in our communities across this city of ours. Is there anything you want to say to other leaders like yourself about getting together and doing something?
I'm always open to other organizations to come aboard, and we work together as one, to make changes. Changes is something that takes time. It's not going to happen all of a sudden, but once we're able to work together to address the issues and be a voice in the community, but also be there for support to these young people and families, that will make a big, big difference. But also the fact that when we are able to address issues at a higher level and make our voice be heard.
Okay, I'm going to hit you on something. When I was gang banging, and I thought I wouldn't live until I was 22, 23. I didn't think I would live till 25. There was lots of us doing that then, and people now say that we didn't exist then, but we did exist, and the kids now are the same way. There's gang banging on the street saying that I'm going to die early. You're given all kind of options to say the opposite. No, you're not going to die early. No, this isn't going to happen. Yes, you do have a future. If you do go to jail, we will try to help you, and we will try to get you into this halfway house. We will not give up on you. And that's what I think are the heightened criminal activity we have now, is I think kids think society has given up on them in total.
Yeah. Well, you have to stop and look at it though. There's another picture that we're not talking about, and it's the system itself. It breaks down these kids. Like, just stop and look in the courtroom when a person is going through their court proceeding. You hear the crown is telling them, "You're no good. You're gonna go away for 5 years or 2 years. You're this," and there's nothing positive that comes out of to encourage that person about anything positive, right? So when you go through life and you start hearing nothing but negative things, you start believing things. Then you just get to the point where you just say, you know what, I just give up.
The commissioner of the East Coast of Canada said to me while I was in Millhaven, and he was the warden, with your family alone, my family's guaranteed 100 years work in corrections. And that's what you're alluding to.
Yeah.
But it's not true. My son's not in jail. My daughters aren't in jail. Their children aren't going to jail. So I've broken with them that tie. And he's incorrect.
Yeah, and we have a lot of trauma that we've gone through. And it's about taking time to address these issues that we've gone through. I mean, I'm the first one to say, man, I mean, I never knew that I suffered from PTSD, you know, from my experience until it's been 20 years later.
Right? Yeah, it comes back later. Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, you got to be able to take time and look into yourself from within, right? For that change to happen. But, I mean, and also you need support.
I hear you loud and clear. We don't support you, then who do we support? Right. And I say it this, you either support guys like Richard Mills and his Kee6six organization, or you support the gangbangers who are recruiting those young kids. Either or. By you not supporting your initiative, you inadvertently support the other guys, because that's how I got my guys. The man isn't going to help us. The man isn't going to do anything for us. Society hates us. We've been slaves for 400 years, and that bank is calling out our names, brother. Are you coming or are you going? And a lot of guys came. And with you in the mix, it was, whoa, Rick's wrong, man. There's other options than what he's talking about. And you nullify guys that were criminal promoters like me. That's the bottom line. Man.
You have to be able to give that people know that there's other option, but also we have to be able to restructure their minds, right? In a sense, in a positive way, right? And if you're able to give a person the lesson and how to be successful in life, that person would always, majority of the time, pick that over making bad choices.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, choices, right? You have the choice to turn left or turn right.
That's true.
Yeah. Anyways, Richard, nice having you on the show. We'll get you back another time because you're a busy guy and you're always doing something. Yeah. And more news is coming down the pipes for sure. So thanks for being on our show, and have a great weekend, man.
Thank you so much. And please follow us on Kee6six.org. And we would love your support. You can always go to Kee6six.org or on Instagram, Facebook, and our website. And you are also welcome to donate. We have a donate button there. We need our help to help these young people in the community. Thanks for having me.
Right on. Thanks. Hey, thanks for watching another show of Flip Your Switch. My podcast team is stoked to be back doing what we love to do, getting the message out about our justice system, about the community that we lived in. You listen to Richard Mills talk about the justice system and all the work he's doing now in the community that he loves so much. Richard Mills is a good guy, doing a lot of hard work, helping a lot of people, flipping a lot of switches. Thanks for staying tuned to us. Stay tuned next time for Clyde Gray is going to be on our show, a boxing phenom in Canada, a world champion. No one's like him. He's done a lot of stuff, flipped a lot of switches, helped a lot of people. He will be in this chair soon. Thanks for watching our show. Stay tuned for the next one.